like you.
I am just like you.
We are just like you.
Soy como tú. I'm just like you.
I'm just like you.
I am just like
You.
I'm just like you. I like art.
My favorite song is Michael Jackson.
I make jewelry. I made this bracelet.
I like to read, eat, and sleep.
Mi piace a scuola, un pochino a scuola.
I like to sing Smooth Criminal with Billie Jean.
I like ice cream. I like tacos. Moi, j'ai aimé à jouer foot.
Then I pick my favorite color.
Off the Wall Thriller.
You want to sing one for us?
No.
Me gusta la gimnasia. I love my sister.
That's your brother, silly. You're a sister.
我最喜欢的颜色是紫色。I like taekwondo. I am born to be a leader. We're twins.
My favorite color is dark blue.
I like to carry the torch for Special Olympics.
I am just like you.
I'm just like you.
Io sono come voi.
I'm just like you. 我和你一样。
We're just like you.
我是西公木团。
I'm just like you.
I am just like you.
We are just like you.
Soy como tú. I'm just like you.
I'm just like you.
I am just like
You.
Hi, my name is Molly Korte, founder of Project Just Like You. We started in Project Just Like You, Movement Monday, where we bring a guest in. This is a new initiative. We bring a guest in and people that we feel that are truly making an impact in the special needs world. I started Project Just Like You after my son, Jacob, was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder in 2016. And I jumped in and I just started sharing stories because we feel that every person is a dignified human being. They need to be seen as a dignified human being. And the best way to relate is by sharing common experiences. So that's what Project Just Like You strives to do. And tonight for Movement Monday, we are very excited to have with us Pam Mines. Pam, hey Pam. Pam Mines is a wife, mother, author, entrepreneur, special needs advocate, lawmaker, and low-key comedian.
Yes.
This Virginia native is a passionate champion for families with differently abled loved ones and the community as a whole. Her passion is largely because of her son, JP, who has autism, and she wanted him and others like him to feel supported and seen. Her out loud, out front, and out of control advocacy has raised awareness around the country for this unseen community. She is an out-of-the-box thinker who gets things done with her jovial approach and positive outlook about a very serious subject. She reminds us that having a loved one with special needs is what you're chosen for, which led her to her first children's book titled God Chose Me. She prides herself on being a contributing voice for the special needs community, but not only the voice for the special needs, but not the only voice for the special needs community. She's been described as a pebble in the community that creates a ripple effect of change that moves people to get involved. She builds a lifetime relationships from very short interactions and often jokes with people she feels connected with by saying, hashtag, you can't quit me. And that she does, because I've heard that myself. When Pam speaks, people listen, and yes, they do. She has a way of presenting that makes people take an interest in the subject. She helps relate you to the topic, even if the topic doesn't relate to you. She does, and that's a gift. She is a very optimistic person who lives her life expecting the best in every situation. Advocating for the special needs community is Pam's passion, and she makes a reference to it wherever she speaks. Her goal is to gain allies and bring more people to being part of the we when it comes to this unseen community. Pam has spoken on a variety of subjects, sat on many panels, and hosted live events, even some that were not related to the special needs community. Pam is a frequent speaker for the special needs community. Additionally, she speaks on a variety of other subjects, such as the power of being positive, thinking out of the box, philanthropy, community engagement, and being a change maker. Pam, welcome. We are so glad to have you tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. We also want to remind our audience tonight that wherever you're from, we would love to know. So you ask a question tonight and your name goes into a gift card drawing for Target. So please make sure to ask questions because you could be one of you guys will be our lucky winner tonight. We would love to know where you're from. So please let us know and we will give you a shout out. So we have followers from all over the world. So wherever you're from, please let us know tonight. And we thank you for joining us and being part of this evening. So Pam, how are you first off?
I'm good. Good. Yes.
You just recently had a walk.
I did. It was fantabulous. Yes, it was a walk where we included the men and women in blue as we lighted up blue. We wanted to make sure that we showed the solidarity between these communities. We wanted to make sure we showed the partnership between these communities because a lot of times the special needs community is unseen and overlooked. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times with what we're dealing with now with law enforcement, and I want to make sure I make it clear, bad policing. There's a spotlight on that community as well. And people tend to think that the police officers are not on our side. And we're no longer telling our children to, if you see a police officer, ask for help because of the fear of things that are going on. Mm-hmm. But what we've noticed is that the law enforcement community is so supportive of us. They want to learn as much as they can and do as much as they can to improve the relationship between these communities and to simply help these communities. So last year we started the Lighted Up Blue with the Men and Women in Blue walk. It's a 1.8 mile walk. We walk from the police station all the way to the Science Museum, and they're building up blue for the month of April. And it's absolutely fantastic. And this year was our second year, and it was wonderful. We had a lot of police presence. The chief of police for the city of Richmond, Chief Alfred Durham, walked with us, and the sheriff for the city of Richmond, Sheriff Antoinette Irving, walked with us, along with a plethora of other law enforcement. So it was a huge deal. We had a great time. So we're looking very forward to next year. I already booked the date, April 28th, 2019. Already have it in the books.
That is fantastic. So
Yes.
April 28th, you said?
April 28th, 2019. We've already booked the 2019 date. Yes.
That's fantastic. That's my daughter's birthday is April 28th.
All right. Well,
Yay.
you got to come out. We got to celebrate her. Indeed. Indeed.
I think that is so awesome, Pam. And I love the fact that you guys are doing this because I think you're absolutely right. There is this fear in the community of the police officers, and the fact that you guys are reaching out and you are, you're making this friendly, you're making this accessible, and you're making them human. And I just think that's such a wonderful thing that you're doing for the community and for the police officers as well. I'm sure that there's a true appreciation and a good rapport that you have that's helping to build bridges.
And, a lot of people, say, how did you get the chief? And I'm like, I just asked, it wasn't about me knowing him beforehand. It was really, you reach out to the public, the people that we elect into office, or the people who are serving us. You just ask for a meeting. And, as he said on many times that he's been in this field for 30 years. And until I approached him about the possibilities of what could happen, he had not even thought about it. So he's 100% on board. He's always at our JP Jumpers events. He's always supportive. He's always trying to figure out, like just recently he said, Pam, we need to have another Peeps and Police session where we had the magistrates and judges and attorneys and things like that. We need to have another one. It's been a couple of years. So you're right. He's constantly looking to improve the relationship with this community and learn more so that he can positively affect this community and with his community policing, not only with him, but also with the officers. So you're absolutely right. It's so, so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I love that. So how did you start that rapport with the police officers? Walk us through that, Pam.
Well, in 2013, I had a dream, actually, like a literal dream about law enforcement and IDs and how to tell if my son, in fact, had autism. Because at the time, I realized that if my son was shot or if something tragic happened because of his response to police officers, sadly enough, when I look at the results, it would have in fact been justified. And it would have been justified because of what law enforcement has been trained for. He's not going to listen to directions. He's not going to follow directions. Right. He's not going to be compliant. He's going to make sudden movements. He may even run away. And so I was thinking it would be justified because the officers don't know. So I want to be proactive instead of reactive. I want to do something in honor of my son, not in memory of him. I don't want, to initiate something and hold up a picture of what he would look like or who he would be or what he did love or what he would love. Sure. And so we just tried to be proactive, and we ended up writing JP's law with then Senator Donald McKeechin, who is now Congressman McKeechin. And I literally went to him and said, Senator, I want to know if you can help. And he saw what I wanted to do. And he said, this is a no-brainer. This is something that is bipartisan. This is something that it's an independent issue. It's a Republican issue. It's a Democratic issue. It's a conservative issue. It's a liberal issue. Absolutely. Everyone is affected by those who have autism or intellectual disability, whether it's a neighbor, a friend, a loved one. And we do want to be proactive. And this law, Molly, passed in 7 months unanimously through the entire General Assembly. And the reason why we did it, again, was in honor, not in memory. But we wanted to make sure that we positively impacted this community. We wanted people to jump in. And we wanted people to know that there are individuals out there who have autism or intellectual disability, and they are driving. They're driving. And if they're not driving, they want the ID. We had a young man, I'll say young man, 60 years old, who found out about JP's law, the JP's law ID, and got it because he was tired of wearing the medical alert bracelet. I mean, when you get the JP's law ID, it's something that's very universal. And I don't even think I've said it yet, but JP's law is the law that allows individuals who have intellectual disabilities or autism to add an innocuous code to their driver's license or identification card, noting that they do in fact have this diagnosis. So that when law enforcement asks you for your ID, as they do general, typical individuals, when they say, let me see your ID, which is a regular response, You hand your ID, they see that code. And when they see that code, they know that even though you're 60 years old, even though you're 40, 30, what have you, and you're a legal adult, you may have to call mommy. We may have to call daddy and figure out what's going on to chill down the situation and kind of see what we can do to make sure everybody's comfortable. It's not a pass to do whatever you want. You know, individuals who have this, if they get a speeding ticket or whatever, they still have to go to court. But the judge is so much more understanding. The judge takes a little bit more time to explain things. They still may have to go to drive school. They still may get a speeding ticket. They still may get a fine. But the judge is asking repeatedly, do you understand? The judge gives more instructions when they come up to the table. And not that I ain't never been to speeding court. I've never been to traffic court. Not me. But when you walk up and they tell you to put everything on the table, they give him him or her a few more instructions, like, do you understand? So it's hugely important. And I did it really honestly in honor of him, not in memory of him. And I'm very proud. We just found out that 1,169 people have received either a JP's Law driver's license or a JP's Law ID since 2014.
That's incredible.
So we are immensely happy, but it doesn't stop there, because our goal is to make this thing national. What we want is one law, one code, one training. That's what we want. We don't want you to have to go to North Carolina and it's Mike's law and the code is completely different and the law enforcement doesn't know and the training is different. We want one training, one law, one code. Even if it's called Mike's law, still get the JP's Law training, still get the JP's Law code, so that we can make sure that if that officer comes from North Carolina to Richmond, or someone comes from Florida to Richmond or Virginia, they can say, well, I've already gotten that JP's Law training, so I'm good to go. Not what does it look like here. So it's hugely important. So we're very, very proud that we were able to do something to be proactive, not something and be reactive. So
sure. Yeah, that's amazing. So I did not know this, Pam. So this literally stemmed from a dream? Literally
from a dream. Like I woke up in the middle of the night. Well, not the middle of the night, but early morning. And in my dream, all of these things were playing out in 2013. I believe it was August or July of 2013. And I woke up early in the morning and I was emailing and my husband said, baby, what are you doing? And I said, I'm emailing the senator. I had like one eye open and was emailing. Then, like I said, Senator McEachin, and just letting him know what I felt like we needed to do. And, you know, when you want to pass laws and you want to do legislative things, it's not that you have to know. You have to know someone who knows.
Right,
and
sure.
So Senator McEachin or Congressman McEachin, he knew. And so I know all about special needs in my world, and he knew all about laws in his world. And so he grabbed the right people. We had one meeting with the two of us, and I do have it on YouTube. It's called the Journey to JP's Law. So I'll send you the link. But it shows you how it started from a dream, and it shows you in the very beginning the email I sent. Say, hey, Senator McEachin, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And next thing you know, me, him, and one other person is in a meeting with a phone, like just a conference call with one person. The next meeting is my board and these municipals and DMV and state troopers and self-advocates and parents. And like I walk in the room and he's put together all of these people, like all of these people that he's put together. And I kind of walk in like, okay. And the reason why he did that is because he doesn't know all about special needs. So he wants to know, what does this look like? He wants to know, what are you thinking, Pam? What do you want? And he made it happen. And this law JP's Law is not one that focuses on every special need. We wanted to focus on those special needs of individuals who drive, because that's where our focus was. We did want to get it for those who have identification, just one identification card. But if we open it up to special needs, it's going to be too big to identify those who will seriously be affected, because the people who have people who have driver's license, who have autism or intellectual disability, they pass the same test we do. There's no modification. So law enforcement is assuming your communication with me is going to be the same as any other typical individual. So that's why this law is so important. So we wanted to make sure that we condensed it, and we only did those with autism and intellectual disabilities instead of, all special.
Broadband, right?
Yeah. So we had to kind of reel it in. Yeah, but literally a dream.
That's amazing. Well, if you've got a dream to pass it in Virginia, Pam, I have full confidence that it's going to go nationwide.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Indeed.
Wow.
Yes.
I have no words for that, Pam.
You have to move. I mean, my motto is, if you ask somebody something and they say no, you're no worse off. Right. Their answer is not the only thing that will change. If the only thing that would change in your life, if you ask someone a question, is a yes. A yes will change whatever direction you're going. Sure. But a no keeps you where you are. So why not ask? All they can say is no, which keeps you where you are. So just ask.
That's such a great point. Just ask.
Just ask.
That is amazing. I want to welcome Suzanne, Reagan, Emily, Amanda, Brian, Wendy, Anita, and Clarence.
And Marcy.
And Marcy, who just joined us as well. Thank you for being with us tonight. Thank you for spending your time with us. We have with us here Pam Mines, and we are hoping that you guys will give your questions in and whatever you want to ask, and your name will be put in a drawing for a Target gift card. Pam, we do have a question for you.
Okay.
Have you had an opportunity to see a trial or hear about JP's law being effective by citizen or officer?
That's an excellent question, and I have not yet. Not yet. Other than testimonies that I hear directly from police officers who have now changed their way of thinking when it comes to dealing with this population. And they've built relationships with individuals who are adults who have autism or intellectual disabilities, because, you have Jacob, I have JP, and when they turn 18, it doesn't cut off. It doesn't just shut down because they've grown up, or when they get older and they get gray hair, it doesn't just say, oh yeah, well, autism, we're done with you. No, it keeps going. So a lot of people who are very high functioning and able to live independently, they're interacting with law enforcement, and these relationships are growing and they're being improved. And law enforcement is learning that there are a few idiosyncrasies about some of our friends who have autism and intellectual disability, but they're not harmful. So they're just a little different. So I've heard a lot of stories about how JP's Law and the JP's Law ID has opened up the eyes of law enforcement. Like I said, even our chief has talked about how his eyes have opened up to this community. But I have not heard of any hugely impactful stories in relation to interaction, which is good, because if I hear it, it's probably something that was kind of not on the best.
Right. That's a good point.
Something tragically that's happened. So we're kind of glad that all we're hearing right now are all the positive things about the improved relationship and things that they hadn't thought of before. And, now they consider themselves, even the officers, they consider themselves a part of the we, not because they have a loved one affected, but because they have a citizen in their community base that's affected. And now they've built a relationship with them. And so it's definitely having an impact. But I have not heard any, sad stories on how JP's Law could have been helpful. Well, actually, I've heard from other states on when things happen, they'll tag me and say, we need JP's Law here, things like that. But right now, we're still in the proactive state and have not had any tragedies that I know of.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Good. It's a good thing. A good thing.
I'm curious on because I think we all want to see this law go nationwide.
Yes.
Now, you said that other stations have been tagging you in that. So are all the other police officers, I'm assuming, in all the other states aware of this law?
I'm not sure if law enforcement is aware of it, more so than our community, our citizens in the special needs community, the autism community. And this is why. The reason why is because when we passed JP's Law, and again, it did go unanimously through the General Assembly and the House and the Senate, all those laws come out on July 1st of every year to tell you these are the laws.
Okay.
This law, JP's Law, was a DMV law. It was not a police law. So because it wasn't something that was going to change the trajectory of law, because this is something that's voluntary, law enforcement knew nothing about it. We assume that because law enforcement asks for your ID a lot, they know everything that's on it, but they don't. So one of the things that I do when I am training law enforcement is I actually take them through the ID and what it looks like and all that. I don't say what the code is in public, only when I'm training law enforcement, because sadly we do have bad guys out there. And you have somebody who constantly goes to Starbucks and orders all of this, macchiato with extra whip and caramel and blah, blah, blah. And they have autism or Asperger's, and they give their ID because they're using their credit card, and the person turns it over and they see that code. It could be a bad guy that would take advantage of this person. So I don't say what the code is, but I do think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that that the relationships are building, the relationships are getting better. But so that's pretty much it.
That's amazing. So you've heard now from numerous police officers, sounds like, that it has been. So where do you see this going, Pam? I mean,
I have been in touch with Senator Warner's office. We've been talking a lot. I've talked with Senator Kane's office. My biggest relationship, my most meetings have been with Senator Warner. My goal is to try to get it on a nationwide level. Yeah, it's just trying to figure out how to do that. We have the Amber Alert, which tragically is because the young lady who passed away was killed and kidnapped, what have you. Her name was Amber, and Amber happens to be a color, so we were able to come up with that. It's just a matter of figuring out how to make it universal. And the reason that it is so hard is because every DMV is different. In Maryland, they may require one thing for individuals who have autism, where they have to take a certain test. Whereas here in Virginia, they don't take a separate test. They just do it. So our goal is to maybe get some neighboring states, maybe get North Carolina and South Carolina and Maryland. And then we can kind of just be like, okay, well, this kind of corner of the East Coast all have the JP's Law ID. But it was very easy here, but it's a lot harder to do it in other states and mimic what it is that we're doing here, even though it's so simple. Because every DMV is so different.
Right. Yeah. So that leads an interesting question as to if the states who already have this stuff in place, wouldn't it be simpler? I mean, wouldn't it be simple to simply get that code in there then?
Well, what I did learn from Senator McEachin, Congressman McEachin, I keep saying Senator because that's how I knew him in the beginning, but what I learned from Congressman McEachin is that the key is to amend a law, not create a law. Okay. So JP's Law was an amendment to what was already there. We already had driver's licenses that showed codes that said hearing impaired and speech impairment, insulin dependent. We already had those codes, but they were only on driver's licenses. What we did with JP's Law is we just added 2 more codes, autism and intellectual disabilities. Okay. Then we also added those to identification cards and not just driver's licenses. So what we did was amend the law, not create a law. So we have to, if they already have codes at their DMV, then that would be great. We can just kind of go to DMV, say, I want to mimic what JP's Law did, and we want to add these codes to the driver's license and identification card. But it's harder in different states. People are kind of worried when they learn that, wait a second, we didn't know people with autism and intellectual disabilities were driving, but now that we know, we're super scared. And that's kind of like, we've brought up something that they didn't know even existed, and now they're kind of resistant to it. Because if you're not in our world, you don't really know what it looks like. You just have this visual of what it is. And that's what, the JP's Law and JP Jumpers Foundation, we want to kind of change that scenario and make it so autism doesn't just look like Jacob, and autism doesn't just look like JP, and that's right. Intellectual disabilities doesn't just look like our friend Logan Moncrief, who has Down syndrome. Like, there are different looks to everything, and sometimes you can't even tell. And once we start identifying it, some states get very nervous and say, wait a second, whoa, you mean they're out there driving? Well, we need to put some new new law in place or some new test in place, and that's not what we want for our citizens. So it's harder than it looks, but I have no doubt that it's going to happen at all, because it's something that's necessary, and everyone is affected. This is a bipartisan issue, and like I said, with the support of Senator Warner's office, and I've talked with a couple of other people who are affected on the West Coast, and we have some things that we're going to do, and I don't have a doubt at all that it's going to happen. Don't know how long it's going to take, but I have no doubt it's going to happen. Yeah, that's
awesome. Is there any possible way to pull in one of the national advocacy groups, national?
I've thought about that. I've thought about reaching out to Autism Speaks, because they do a lot with legislation. They also do a lot with research, and they've been very supportive of the JP Jumpers and what I've done. When I initially wrote God Chose Me, and I wasn't in this role, in this president and founder role of the JP Jumpers Foundation, they were very, very supportive of everything that we were doing. So I have thought about, let me reach out to some national advocacy groups who will bring more awareness to what it is I'm trying to do, because it will positively impact this community directly. And all I want to do, again, we can call it Jacob's Law. I just want to get one law, one training, one code, so that it is consistent across the country. Yeah. So when you see it, if you were a Florida police officer or a California police officer and you come to Virginia, you know, oh, I know what that is. I've already gotten trained on that. So, but that is an awesome idea, because you can't do it by yourself. So I have just recently thought about reaching out to Autism Speaks to see if they can help.
Excellent. Well, the reason I bring that up is because I just went with a friend to the National Down Syndrome Society for their buddy walk up in Washington, D.C. And it was amazing to see their agenda, and it made an impact, Pam. Wow. And, you know, just seeing these hundreds of people coming to advocate. Now, actually, I was very excited because I was representing the autism community. So I went and I said, you know what, I have my agenda too. And, and, you know, I very proudly said, okay, I'm the person here that's speaking for the autism community. Yes. And I, you know, really, and being there, Pam, watching the two community, or like watching their community and our community, if we brought our voices together, we could make a serious dent in DC.
Well, the thing about autism and the thing about special needs as a whole is that we have so many people in our community. You know, like you have the autism stats, you have the Down syndrome stats, then you have this, you know, that's like globally. Then you have that stat of somebody where you say, oh, what's your diagnosis? And they say 3, like in the whole world, 3. Like it's not even 1 in 3. The code, the ratio is 3. So you're right. This community is, the special needs community is a community. And I say that so often, even though you have Down syndrome diagnosis, you have autism diagnosis, cerebral palsy, and Prader-Willis, and all of these different diagnoses, we're a community. The special needs community is community. And so no matter what, the Down syndrome community is not going to say, get out of here. You got autism. We don't want you here. And the autism community is not going to say, wait, what do you do? We're better.
Exactly. Like, we all want the same thing for our kids.
Indeed, yes.
And, you know, and I brought that up to Sarah. I met Sarah Weir when I was at the Buddy Walk. And I said, you know, we really need to unite our voices, because our voices together, you know, one of their big things that they're trying to push right now, I'm sure you've heard it, law syndrome, which is the sub-minimum wage, and they need to get rid of it. And so, well, that's the same thing we want for our kids. Because, you know, they'll take advantage of either group. Yeah. And so I just feel like that would make such an powerful impact. So I just love what you're doing, Pam, and I can't wait to see this come into fruition, because I believe it's going to come into fruition too.
It will. Yeah,
I believe in it. We want to welcome Garrett, Jennifer, Yvette, Terry, Angela, Stephen, and Christy. Thank you so much. And Kelly. So we have Kelly. Hi, Kelly. Again, we're here with Pam Mines, and we have a question for you, Pam.
Okay.
Marcy asks, what kind of test is there in Virginia? Can you explain?
Test for autism, I'm assuming.
I think, I'm not, it just says, what kind of test is there? Maybe it's assuming, like, maybe it's for our driver's license in general.
Okay, well, for autism in the state of Virginia, there is no autism test. Right. There is no intellectually disabled test. You take the same test everyone else takes. And when you get their learner's permit or their driver's license, you just check that box that says autism or intellectually disabled. If you choose, it's 100% voluntary. If they are asking about how to get diagnosed for autism or Asperger's or intellectual disability, that would be something where you would go to a developmental pediatrician. You would probably share your concerns with your pediatrician first. See if your child is meeting or your loved one is meeting the typical milestones. And we don't say normal or regular. We say typical because it's just a range of when children should be doing certain things. So if they're not meeting those guidelines, you should certainly ask your pediatrician about maybe seeing a developmental pediatrician and then seeing if you need to get a diagnosis on that level. Some children do develop slower than others and they just end up catching up. But if you can see this delay, we all have that emotion of denial. But if you can get through that emotion, know that you need to for your child, because that first 3 years is kind of crucial. We are able to go into early childhood special education, and we're able to go into early intervention and things like that. And that's in the first 3 years. So it's kind of crucial for you to have your moment, have your emotion, deal with your anger and your frustration and your embarrassment and your, denial and your sadness, deal with all of that and then pull it together. Because at the end of the day, we got to do what's right for our children. And the longer we wait, the longer it will take to get them on the right track and get them the help that they need. So
no doubt. Absolutely. I 100% agree, Pam. And that's, I think that's part of the beautiful thing of advocacy is that it's not about us. It's about our kids. It's about a community, and so much bigger than us.
Yeah. It's about those who can't speak for themselves, and those family members and those loved ones who kind of don't know what to do.
Exactly.
And that's why, we were talking on the break about, your advocacy doesn't have to look like mine. It doesn't have to look like yours. It doesn't have to be you come up with JP Jumpers Foundation, something named after your son, or come up with Project Just Like You. Yeah. It just has to be that you're advocating for your child, and whatever level that looks like. You should always advocate for your child, but it doesn't have to be on this scale. I had a girlfriend of mine, Erica J., who called me years and years ago and told me that, her son had been diagnosed, and she kind of wanted advice. And I said, first and foremost, don't think you have to tell the world. She did tell the world about 2 years after that, but I told her, deal with it the best way that you can. And all you need to be is an advocate for your child. That's all you have to be. Make sure you do what you need to do for him. And if it comes out and you're advocating for everybody in the world, then so be it. But if you choose to advocate for one, and that one is your son or your daughter, that is 100% okay. No one is looking at you differently because you decided not to take it to the level that you and I have taken it to.
That's right. Yeah. And, we all have our different gifts too. I feel like we have exactly what we need in place. And those gifts and talents are there to serve whatever immediate purpose we have. Yeah. And, you're right. Not everyone has to do, it can be at all different levels. Yeah. But if you're working for the good, that good builds upon other good. Indeed. And it kind of snowballs.
Definitely. And you'll impact someone. Someone will see you playing with your one child on the playground and see how you're talking to them. And they'll be in that same predicament. And they'll come up and they'll say, does your child have autism? Does your child have special needs? Does your child have intellectual disability? Can you help me? And you may end up helping someone just because of the way you're talking to your child. So, advocacy has a different look for everybody. But at the end of the day, you have to at least advocate for one. And that is your loved one. So,
that's right. Absolutely. All right. We have another question for you, Pam. Brian asks, once the codes are in place, how can we get the word out to people so they can learn about the law and codes on their license. So there's two questions. So that's one. The second one, is marketing your responsibility or the DMV's?
Great questions. And I'm going to kind of go backwards. Marketing is my responsibility because they have it there, but they're not going to, as supportive, and I can't say how supportive Karen Grimm and Sharon at the DMV, I cannot tell you how supportive they've been whenever I've called on them and asked them for stats or asked them for codes, or I go in and just try to ask them to run my son's ID so I can see what it looks like. They have been very, very supportive. So I don't want to say they don't support, but this initiative is not theirs. The same way that when the code said insulin dependent, they didn't advertise that it says insulin dependent. When it said speech impairment, they didn't advertise it said speech impairment. So the codes were already there, and it's up to me and my community and my loved ones and everyone who knows about it to help with the marketing of this tool. It's very hard to market because our community is huge yet so small, especially when it comes to those who are driving, because initially people think about driving. They don't think about the identification card. JP was the first person in the state of Virginia to get this ID in 2014. He was only 10 years old. He just turned 10. So I'd like to make sure I stress you can get this JP's Law ID in the state of Virginia if you are driving or if you're not. If you just want a child's ID or if you just want an adult ID, like I told you, the young man who was 60 years old and was tired of wearing a medical alert bracelet and wanted to just pull his ID out, then you can do that. So the marketing is on me. It's on you. It's on all these other advocates and all these parents and sharing the story that we do, in fact, have this law here in the state of Virginia, but it's not on DMV. But they are hugely supportive. And whenever I reach out to them, they, without hesitation, respond. And so I'm very appreciative to them. They came to the meetings. They testified at the General Assembly to say that this law and adding this code would be no problem. They were absolutely terrific. Yeah.
That's fantastic. You know, one of the things that I want to make a point of, Pam, is I love that you consistently talk about being proactive, because you are absolutely right. There's so many laws, majority of the laws, I would say, are there in place because something horrible and tragic happened.
Yeah.
And the fact that you look at it that way and say, you know, let's get it in place now before something happens, is such it's an attribute to your positive outlook and to your proactive spirit. And I just want to point out that I love that. And that's one of the things that I just find so amazing about you, Pam, is that you are such a proactive thinker.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's not so much of a question as it is. I really appreciate that. And so Virginia is benefiting that from your proactive stance. So thank you. As a mom of a child with autism as well, because you're going to one day be in that position where he's going to get an ID. Yeah. I guess, could he get an ID now, Pam?
I was just going to ask you. Yes, Jacob can get an ID right now.
Oh,
so
perfect.
What you have to do is take him up there. You have to have a letter from your doctor to note that he does in fact have the diagnosis. But yes, he can get it. He can get it right now. And it actually says children's ID is what it says. If you go to my Facebook page, the JP's Law Facebook page, it tells you exactly how to get the ID and how much it costs. It doesn't cost any more than the typical ID. It does cost, I think the total is like $10. I think, don't quote me, but I'm almost positive that it's $10. But it doesn't cost more because you're getting a JP's Law ID. If you went in there and got the insulin dependent one, or if you were renewing your ID, it would cost the same. So, you know, they aren't benefiting off of the special needs community like, they're charging us extra because of something like that. So, yes, Jacob could get this ID. You know, another benefit of it is that if we get as many children as we can, or as many adults as we can to get this ID, that means that their diagnosis is in a state database. And if something happens with elopement, which AKA wandering, and they do wander off, as soon as law enforcement pulls that ID, they'll see that they have autism and know, okay, wait a second, our response on this is going to be a little bit different. Like, we have to move fast. We have to do So it's kind of nice to have in a state database that this person is missing, or this person is in trouble, or even if you have an emergency at the house, say there's a fire or what have you, and they pull up the ID, they're able to say, wait a second, this young man has autism, or this young lady has autism. We need to get to them first because they may not know how to respond. So it's nice to have something in a state database that's positive to note that these individuals do have special needs. But again, I mean, do have autism or intellectual disability. But again, it's a code. It's a code I'm not going to say. But it's a code. So, and DMV knows what the code is, and law enforcement knows what the code is.
And that's all that matters, right?
That's all that matters. That's right.
As long as they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, and they were intricate in choosing the code. I didn't do it on my own. I was like, yeah, we should have numbers and letters. They were like, no, it needs to be something a little simpler. And law enforcement told us this is what we need in order to be effective. So they were a part of that process as well.
That's great. So right off the bat, you were working with law enforcement and creating that bridge.
Right off the bat, yeah.
That is fantastic. We want to welcome Julie, Terry, and Robin, who just joined us. Thank you again. We're with Pam Mines, founder and president of JP Jumpers. We have another question for you, Pam. We have actually 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Marcy asks, do you think it is just as important for parents of the child to get help too?
Yes. I haven't.
Good question, Marcy.
That's a great question. I haven't found like the perfect support group, like the one that will let you kind of have your woes and have your issues and kind of help you out and then move you on, so to speak. But one of the things that the JP Jumpers wants to do and the foundation, what we do is make you feel good in your space. We want to make sure that people do understand that having a child with autism or intellectual disabilities or special need is not an accident, a punishment, or a curse. It truly is, a blessing. It truly is an appointment by God, and we need to take it seriously. So in some sense, we are a support group because we want to make people get those warm and fuzzies. And when you think about, the stress that does come and the financial burden that does come with having a loved one with special needs, also comes joy. Because most of the time, the person who has the special need is not unhappy. They're just in the happiest place ever.
Yeah,
but
you're right about that.
The burden of taking care of them does fall on us. So I suggest if you can't get to a support group, and even though I said that your advocacy doesn't have to look like mine, it doesn't. Get your neighbors across the street. Get your neighbors on either side of you to understand what you're going through so that they can help and they can learn more. Get your family to come over and get to know the person who has special needs so that you can have a break. Not a break that you leave the child or the loved one with them, but just so you can have a break in your own house. Invite people over so that while you're sitting on the couch, when that person needs something, someone else can get up. If you feel comfortable leaving them with them, that's fine. But sometimes you just need an in-house break. Fortunately, I'm married and, I'm not a single mother out here doing it on my own. I have my wonderful husband who I also call my boyfriend. And, he's great. And we co-parent and we get this thing done and do what we have to do. But there are many instances where you don't have, people who are married. So
absolutely.
The parents definitely need to try to do whatever they can to take some time for themselves, but also understanding that that's very hard because some people are very, very uncomfortable being with someone who has special needs. So what you need to do is invite them into your home. Those you trust, those you love, invite them over a little bit more often so they can get to know the things that your child does or your loved one does so that it's not so uncomfortable. And again, it doesn't have to be that you leave that person in charge and you leave the house. Sometimes you just need an in-house break. Sometimes you just want to be able to take a nap and know that your children are safe and nobody's going to walk out the house and nobody's going to cut the house on fire. We here in my house, we took all of the knobs off. We take all of the knobs off of the oven. We've done that since JP was little, not because he has ever turned the oven on, but because I don't know if he would.
Right. Preventative measures. Absolutely.
Exactly. So we always cut it off.
And
knobs off.
You don't understand what it's like to have a child with autism until you have a child with
autism. Yeah.
Absolutely. We have ringers now on all of our doors.
Yeah.
Because we know that Jacob knows how to take the deadbolt and turn it, open it.
Yeah.
And our biggest fear is he'll just walk out because he will. I will never forget, Pam. There was a time last year where Jacob opened the door. I was getting the girls ready for school, and Jacob slipped out through the garage, and he walked right on up the sidewalk, and he was standing in the middle of the road with his diaper on.
Wow.
And it was it scared me so badly. We were all screaming, Jacob, where are you? And finally I ran outside, and there he was standing, and there was a car parked right in front of him.
Wow.
And it was absolutely terrifying. And you don't think about those things.
And he's innocently, he's like, huh? What?
Yeah, he had no idea. He thought, oh, this is fun. I mean, I think he was even laughing. He was standing under a little diaper. I thought, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But you don't think about those things. And Jacob could very easily do that, even though that was last year.
He could do it again.
Do it again. Yeah. Absolutely. He tends to wonder.
Yeah. And you don't know until you know. You
absolutely
you said that exactly perfectly. You don't know until you know.
Yeah. And it's scary. It's
scary, yeah.
We have another question for you, Pam.
Okay.
Kelly asks, she says, I don't have a question, but just want to say kudos, Pam, for your heart, your energy, and your passion. This voice is most definitely your calling.
Thank you.
That was very sweet. What a sweet comment. Thanks,
That
Kelly.
was sweet. It 100% is my passion. It's all I think about.
Yeah.
You know, Matthew 22:14 says, "For many are called, a few are chosen." And I really believe that I was called for this. I don't consider myself, as you said in my bio, I don't consider myself the voice for the special needs community, but I definitely consider myself a voice. I don't speak for everyone.
Right. Sure.
But I do speak. And I want to make sure that people know about our community and people are getting more comfortable about our community. And those comments make me feel good. It reminds me that what I'm doing is necessary and it's bringing more awareness to our community in a positive way. And people who didn't know how they could positively affect it are now volunteering at my events just to get their feet wet and get their toe in the water. And so that means a lot. So thank you, Kelly. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I feel, and even the reason that I asked you, because I, of course, have all the respect in the world for you, Pam, is you just do so much good. And to have you on our show tonight, like I 100% agree with Kelly. Like you are doing amazing things. And we are so fortunate here in Richmond to have you and in the state of Virginia, really.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We're
going to shower you with compliments, right?
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And if there's no other questions out there tonight, this wraps up our Movement Monday.
All right.
And I want to thank Pam Mines for being on with us tonight.
My pleasure.
And we also want to thank Fiat Ministry, who is the one who produces the show. We want to give them a huge shout out. Thank you so much to Fiat Ministry. You can check them out on fiatministry.network.tv. Thank you, Brian. I don't have my notes in front of me for that. So we want to give thank you to them. And we also, Pam, want you to draw a number. Brian's going to tell me in a second, or between 1 and what, Brian? This is for our drawing for the card.
Okay.
Yeah?
It's up to me.
That's right. You're gonna pull the magic number.
All right.
1 through 50, Pam.
All right. Let's do 77 because 7 is the number of completion. So 77. Wait.
1 through 50.
17.
17. All right. Mad drum roll here. That's all right. Almost. Okay, who's our winner? Marcy Ferris is our winner tonight.
All right.
Thanks, Marcy. We're glad you joined us. Marcy, if you could please email me or send me a message and let me know your address, and I will mail that gift card out to you tonight.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. And I know Marcy, that's awesome. Marcy and I go back to college. So thank you for being part of this tonight. And thank you to everyone who joined us tonight.
Yeah.
We really appreciated you guys being there. You guys asked some really wonderful questions. And thank you to you, Pam.
Well, thank you, Molly. And thanks for all you're doing, because I just want to be just like you. I love your movement. I love everything you're doing. So much kudos to you. And thanks for using your voice in this way. I really appreciate it.
And thank you. I think we make a good team, Pam.
Indeed.
I know.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see what comes next. And, we're following you on the scale, because you guys are going to take over the country with this law.
That's right. That's our goal. Goal.
Yeah, you're going to do it, Pam.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have a great evening, and thank you again. And thank you again to everyone else out there.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye. You too. Right. Bye-bye. Thank you again.